Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics, and today I'm excited to share with you a fun project using layer cakes to make these drawstring bags. Now, how cute are these? We have two sizes to show you today, a small and a large. On our website at the very bottom, there's a link for tutorials, free patterns actually, is what you'll click on. And we'll have the specifics there of the measurements, but follow along as I show you how to make these adorable drawstring bags. I know that I'm often looking for just a little bag, not some big bulky thing like a suitcase, but just something small to store maybe buttons or some other craft object or anything, maybe jewelry when you're traveling, perfect for that. So we used a layer cake, and layer cakes were actually designed initially by Moda Fabrics. It's a Moda term. Today, all the bags you see here are from Whitewashed Cottage. That's a Three Sisters collection from Moda, and isn't it so shabby chic looking? It's just beautiful. I absolutely love it. So these are 10 by 10 inch squares. Other manufacturers are also have pre-cuts as well as the 10 by 10 inch squares. So not just Moda now has those, other companies as well. Michael Miller's has those, Maywood Studio, etc. has these available. Now let's say that you have scraps at home. Great, no problem. Just start with a 10 by 10 inch square, two of them actually, if you're going to be making the large bag, so that way it can be two-tone. The small bag takes just one of the 10 by 10 inch squares. So let's get started. I chose my two squares today from the Whitewashed Cottage collection, again by Moda Fabrics. So you'll just take those and stack those right on top of each other. And this would be best, of course, to use with a rotary cutter and a mat, but if you don't have that, scissors will work just fine. So the first thing that we'll do is we're actually going to cut the actual the strings that are part of the drawstring. So let's cut out of both layers at the same time, two 1-inch strips. This is for the larger bag. We're going to be making the larger bag first. So let's cut that, and we'll just, without disturbing our fabric, move over and make another cut. And let's put that aside for now. With what's left over, you'll turn it 90 degrees, and we will cut 3 inches. Okay, now we'll mix and match. This is the fun part. We'll put the polka dot on the bottom of the floral, and we will put the floral on the bottom of the polka dot. And that's what gives us this two-tone look. See how that looks? And of course, you don't have to do that. You could just use, hey, who wouldn't want to use more fabric? Because that's why we love doing this. It's colorful. And think of it, since each large bag, this is the large, takes only 2 layer cakes, squares out of 1 layer cake pack, you can get 21 bags. And wouldn't that be a great gift? So now that you've got this arranged this way, we will bring the right sides together, matching those up, and we'll sew a 1/4 inch here. We'll do the same thing with this. We'll sew a 1/4 inch. Let's take that to the sewing machine, and we'll do that right now. So now that I've sewn the 1/4 inch, let's take it to the pressing mat and we'll press that seam open. Okay, now we have our 2 halves. So let's lay those right sides together. Of course, making sure we want to line up that seam. And if it tends to bleed over, just like mine crept on me just a little bit, I'm just going to trim that up ever so slightly. That happens. In little DIY projects, you can get away with that. You don't try that in quilting, where you just trim off a little here and a little bit there. But in DIY projects, it works just fine. So right sides together, lining everything up. Now we will use our friction pen, and we're going to mark down from the top 2 inches. In fact, I will just lay my ruler, my big ruler, because I've got it right here, across the top. And I'm just going to mark 2 inches. There and there. Now from this that mark, I will measure a 5/8 inch seam allowance. That's where this ruler comes in really, really handy. So let's see here, 5/8 of an inch. So that's going to be 5 tick marks. If you have a ruler that's in eighths, that's going to be 5 little tick marks over. So I know some people are like, oh, math just freaks me out, scares me. That's how I think about it. I like math, but I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my spot, and I'm just going to draw a line with my friction pen. Now, if this is the first time you've seen me use the friction pen, then that tells me you probably haven't seen any of my other videos because I use it every single time. I love this friction pen. Let's say that I mismarked that. Oops, that was a 1/2 inch and I missed it. No problem, just come in with your iron and then you can just, and I'm not gonna go iron it all the way. Look at that, it just disappeared. So that's the beauty of using the friction pen, is the whole thing will just vanish. Now let me go put that mark back in. Now across the bottom, so that's there. Let's do the other 5/8 inch while we're at it, while we're thinking about that. Across the bottom, we're gonna use a regular 1/4 inch seam. So let's, again, we're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our spot. I don't even really need that bottom piece there right now. That's kind of getting in my way. Let's just, you're only gonna mark the top. So let's just get that out of the way right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my spot. And then we'll draw our line. Now, if you are comfortable with a 5/8 inch seam allowance on your sewing machine, you don't need to pre-mark this. You can just sew it. I am a quilter primarily. When I'm not doing fun little DIY projects like this, I'm programmed for the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I mean, it's just like in my DNA. So if it's an unusual seam allowance like that, I just draw it. Why not? It's a lot easier to sew on a line than think I've got a 5/8 seam allowance going on. So that's why I draw. But if you know or are comfortable with that, you don't need to draw. Now this is a standard 1/4 inch seam allowance, but just because I'm kind of in sew on the line mode, I'm just gonna draw that in there. Then I don't get confused what I'm doing. Okay, so that's been drawn. Now, let's go back and we'll stack that on top of the other one. And of course, I want to make sure those seams come together, because if they don't, it's really gonna show. So we'll have this here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple pins in this because I don't want anything to shift. I just wanna clarify before we take it to the sewing machine, we measured 2 inches down, and then we measured from that point 5/8 inch all the way left and right, and across the bottom's a 1/4 inch. So you're not going to sew the 5/8 all to the top. You'll make sure you stop, and I drew a little 90-degree corner so that you know where to stop. So let's take that sewing machine. Okay, now that that's sewn together, for the top portion of the bag, let me see if I'll show it to you. This might make a lot more sense if you see the next step. You see how that's turned down here, how the sides sewn together, but then it begins to, we have to fold that edge under in order to create the placement that the actual handles, the little straps will go through. So you'll fold 1/4 of an inch and fold again. And you're going to, it's not going to be all the way down, of course. You're only going to be really going, you want to go past this mark, but then you can kind of just fade out, so to speak. So you see how it just kind of fades away. That's what we're going to do, is fold 1/4 and 1/4, press, do the same on this one, do the same on the other side. Let's take that to our pressing mat right now so you can see what that's going to look like. And that's really up to you. If you want to fold it 1/4, press, and then press again after you fold 1/4, or if you want to try to do it all in one step. Let's just do one step at a time. Sometimes if I do too many steps, I don't do any of them well. I bet that happens to you too. We try to multitask and save time, and we end up not really doing any of that well. Now we'll do the same thing over on this side. A quarter, press, and a quarter again, and press. And we'll repeat this on the other side. All right, I pressed both of those raw edges, a quarter and a quarter. So I want to show you what this is supposed to look like right now. So you have this kind of V here. This is pressed. This is, of course, where you measure the 2 inches. That's where that seam allowance started. So you're gonna sew down here, very close to that edge. You'll go beneath the V slightly, go horizontally, and up. In fact, I'll even be able to draw what that's gonna look like. And again, this will be on our website. So you're gonna go right along here. So right along here, there's your V. Go right below that, go straight across, and you'll go back up the other side. Of course, you wouldn't draw this, but I just want you to be able to visually see it. Because once I get to the sewing machine, it's so tight in there, it's hard to see. So that's what that's gonna look like. Sew, sew, and sew. And then of course, repeat that for the other side. Let's take it to the sewing machine. It's easiest if you just fold the back flap out of the way so you don't accidentally sew that. So let's take that to the machine. We're just going to run a straight stitch right along that edge. When you get to the point right here that kind of goes across that bridge, stop right there. And it works best if you take this part of your machine off. You might even need to just stop at this point. It's probably easier to do that. And then you can fit the bag kind of around the horn of your machine. It just makes it a little bit easier to go across that area that I kind of refer to as the bridge right here. So let's feed that through. Seems to make it just a little bit smoother. There we go. Make sure that's still tucked under and that's still tucked under. Much simpler to fit it around the horn of your machine. Then you can probably just pivot and come right up that side. There we are. And I did the one for the other side already. So now what we'll do is you've got, of course, your V here. Oh, let's trim off a couple of those threads. You'll fold the top edge down so that the bottom comes just to where that V is. Don't go below that, just go to where that V is. So you're just going to check that spot where that is and press. And you'll repeat that on more rogue threads. Let's see here. Let's fold that down and we'll repeat that just so where it comes to the V and about right like that. Great. Now you'll come to the sewing machine and you will sew a 1/4 inch all the way along here. And of course you'll stop at each spot right there. So you'll sew a 1/4 inch, stop, sew a 1/4 inch, and then we'll go to the next step. Now the next step in our bag is to make the drawstrings. We had those strips we put aside, and now we need to bring them out. In fact, we can put that back on our machine now. Okay. So we have one in the floral and one in the polka dot. We thought it'd be fun to mix them up, so we just did we did one strap this way and the other strap with the other 2 fabrics. So you just go right sides to right side, sew a 1/4 inch, or you could even sew a 1/2 inch. We'll repeat that with the other two. And then we'll take that to our pressing mat and press that open. Okay. So with the drawstring, let me show you on our current bag. We just left these as raw edges out here. It's a pinked edge. It's really not going to fray a whole bunch. If you really didn't like that, then at this point what you could do is just tuck that in a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 inch, and stitch it. So we didn't feel that it was necessary. It's just a very basic bag, but again, if that bothers you to have that raw edge, at the end of the drawstring, fold a 1/4, press, and then you would just sew. And you repeat that on both ends for both strips. Okay, so now that we've got that ready to go, let's bring out our pressing mat again. Because now what you'll do is you will fold in the one edge a 1/4 inch and press, and you'll do that all the way down, and you'll repeat that for the opposite side. So I'm going to press all this all the way down, and when I come back, I'm going to press another 1/4 inch. Looks like a little bit wide there. Got a little bit chunky. Press again all the way down, so you're kind of both pressing to the middle. So when we come back, I'll have that all pressed. Okay, I've pressed both edges to the inside, maybe just a little under a 1/4 inch. And now, see what that's what that looks like. So those are pressed to the middle. Now we'll press that in half. This is going to get really little here. And we'll take this back to the pressing mat, pressing that all together. And of course you want to match the fold up as close as you can. And then we will be able to take it to the sewing machine and we'll sew just inside that folded edge. So that's all folded in half. Let's take that to the sewing machine. This is really tiny now. And we will just sew just inside that edge. Sew enough that you don't go off that edge, but just enough. Okay, so there we go. One drawstring complete. Of course, you can do the same steps with your next drawstring. Repeat those same steps. I made another strap ahead of time so we could save us some time. Now, we'll take our bag, and this is the fun part. We get to turn it right side out. That's always so much fun to see just how cute our bag is. You know what? See how in the corner it wants to have this kind of triangle? We learned something when we were making this, and I forgot that step, but let me go back to that step. We went ahead and clipped those corners. And now just be careful you don't clip through your stitches right there. We cut that about like that. I stayed, I don't know, probably 1/8 inch away from my stitches. It just helps the bag turn a little bit smoother. Now if the lines that we drew bug you and you're using the friction pen, you can always take that to the hot iron and look at that. Bye-bye. All the lines are gone. I love that about the friction pen. I think that is one of the reasons I get so excited about that product. Is it's just every time it fascinates me that it works, that I can apply heat and then the drawn lines are gone. Okay, so we clip the corners. Let's turn the bag out now, and you'll see how it just is better. It's a more clean turn. Look how cute our bag is. Now you need to fish through the drawstring. So this is how drawstring works. You'll fish it through here. It'll loop through and come out the other side. So this is going to be like this. That's how this will work. So I want you to make sure you understand that. So you'll go in through here, out, in through here, and around for one of the loops, like this. So you need a tool. Now Angela, who builds the beautiful props and does a lot of these sample projects, brought this to me. I don't know where she found it. She doesn't remember what it's called. A thingamajig, hooker-do. I don't know what this is called. You might know, but whatever this is, you need it. It's got a little hook on the end. It's the most useful little tool because I can stick this through here. In fact, let me do this. I'll show you how this works. Cool tool. It's got a little hook on the end. It looks like a little tiny crochet hook, and I can hook my fabric right on there just like that. You know, let's get those glasses, and I probably stand a better chance at actually seeing what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to hook that on there. Maybe we'll try the other end. And then we'll pull it through. There we go. And we'll pull that through. Isn't that slick? And we'll let go. We'll come back out, and we'll do that again. And we'll pull it through to this side. There we go. And we'll draw that through. Okay, and now we'll repeat those steps with our other drawstring. So we want that to be even. So the next one, the way you'll feed that one in, this one comes from the right, loops through and goes this way. This will need to be the opposite, coming in through here, feeding around and coming out through that direction. So we will repeat those steps and pull this one through. Okay, so we've got our drawstrings in, and you want to make sure that they're even. So you might have to adjust them a little bit. And then you'll take the two ends on the one side and you'll tie them into a knot, just together. You'll tie them together into a knot. And then you'll repeat that for this end. And your bag is complete. How adorable is that? It's so super cute. Now, if you want to make the small bag, let's show you how to do that. Of course, the top and the sides, that's all going to be the same. It's just setting up the initial layer cake is just a slightly different. Unlike the large where we cut two 1-inch by width of fabric strips, we will cut 4 for the little bag. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's the 4 strips, and we'll put those aside for now. With the remaining fabric, I'm going to turn it, and that should measure 6 by 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, 6 by 10. So we'll cut that exactly in half at the 5. So this is the body of the bag itself. So just like before, we will go in and we will measure down. And this is where a smaller ruler is handy. Love this small little ruler. And we will measure down 5/8 inch and 1/4 across the bottom, 5/8 on the other side. And I like to make a little 90-degree mark so I know where I'm going to begin sewing. And we'll do the same thing over here. There's my mark, 5/8 of an inch, and then a little bit of mark across the bottom. So you'll sew and you'll complete this bag exactly like you did the large bag. The only difference is with the actual drawstring. Because the bag is smaller, you don't want as long of a drawstring. So you'll take your 4 strips and you'll just cut them down to 6 inches. And you could have done that up front as well. Right when you cut the 1-inch strips, you could cut them down. Here I'll just line them up and we'll quickly cut them down. Let's see here, right there, and we'll put that aside. And just like before, you will butt these two up against each other, right sides together, so the 1/4 inch, so the 1/4 inch, and you'll complete the bag the same way you did the large bag. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these adorable, very useful little bags using layer cakes.